Alright, Richie here with your statifying football picks, your college football picks for the weekend. Sorry, it's a little bit late. Andrew's not doing it with me. We couldn't get our schedules quite together. This is the last minute Thursday night kind of thing. So we got 4 games on Friday. William and Mary taking on Virginia. So I'll go Virginia with that one. Wake Forest taking on Rice. Wake Forest had a nice first week win. Go with Wake Forest. Marshall, Boise State. This is an interesting game. Boise State had that comeback against FSU. Marshall's got a high-powered offense as well. This could be a shootout. It's on the blue turf, though. Boise State rarely loses at home, so I'll go with Boise. And then your final one on Friday, Sacramento State taking on Arizona State. Arizona State, Jaden Daniels looked pretty good in his first game as a starter. I'll go Arizona State. Now going to the Saturday games. Ohio Bobcats and Pittsburgh. Ohio's a really good MAC team. Pittsburgh's kind of so-and-so team from the ACC. Pitt's favored. I'm going to go with Ohio, though. I think Ohio wins. Cincinnati playing Ohio State. This is interesting. Ohio State has not lost to a team from Ohio in 100 years, I believe. Justin Fields, the quarterback for Ohio State, looked like a Heisman candidate last week. Cincinnati, their 11-win team, have a really good quarterback and running back. I want to go for the upset here, but I'll go Ohio State in that. Army taking on Michigan. Army's got the triple option. Could give him a scare, but I'll go Michigan. Rutgers actually looked good in their first game. Their transfer Texas Tech quarterback McLean Carter looked well. Isaiah Pacheco at running back ran for 156 yards and 4 touchdowns. And their other running back, Raheem Blackshear, had over 100 yards receiving. And they taken on Iowa. Iowa's a tough team. Their left tackle, I think, was injured. He may or may not play. Iowa, I think, is on upset alert. Iowa's ranked, but I'll give Iowa the edge. Syracuse taking on Maryland. Maryland dropped 79 points their first week. Yes, it was 1-0, but still 79 is nothing to sneeze at. Syracuse kind of struggled with Liberty. They won 24-0, but their quarterback Tommy DeVito didn't look good, so I'm going to go Maryland here. Old Dominion taking on Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech wants revenge, so Virginia Tech win. Revenge from last year. Old Dominion beat them, so Virginia Tech will win that. UAB taking on Akron. UAB, they kind of struggled their first game, coming off 11-win season last year. They lost a lot of guys. I'll give UAB an edge in this. Kennesaw State, 1AA taking on Kent State. I'll go Kent State. Southern taking on Memphis, had a huge first win against Ole Miss. I'll go Memphis this game. West Virginia, Missouri. West Virginia kind of struggled their first game against James Madison, who's a really good 1AA team. Missouri lost to Wyoming. Wyoming's not a bad team. They went 6-6 last year. This has the potential to be a shootout. But I'll go. I think Missouri bounces back. I'll go with them. Charleston Southern taking on South Carolina. South Carolina is starting a freshman quarterback, Ryan Helinski, but it's Charleston Southern. It's a 1AA team. South Carolina. It's a good game for a freshman to start his first game. Vanderbilt taking on Purdue. Purdue had a big lead on Nevada, then gave it up. Vanderbilt was never really. They kind of held close against Georgia for a little while, but I'll go Purdue here. Bowling Green taking on Kansas State. This could be a mini upset. Kansas State looked pretty good, but Bowling Green on their new coach looked really good on offense. But I'll go Kansas State here. But that could be an interesting one. 1AA Western Carolina taking on NC State. NC State, actually, their quarterback Matthew McKay looked good in his start last week, so I'll go there. Northern Illinois taking on Utah. Both typically strong defenses. Both typically strong running games, but I think Utah is a little more talented, so I'll go Utah. 1AA Fordham taking on Ball State. Ball State held their own against Indiana pretty well, even though they lost their quarterback as a grad transfer. Their top running back is a grad transfer, but I think Ball State will win. USF taking on Georgia Tech. USF looked terrible against Wisconsin. Georgia Tech, they looked a little bit better against Clemson. This is that Georgia Tech. I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to go USF this one more time. I think maybe last week is an aberration. I think they were embarrassed. I think they kind of bounced back here and win. 1AA Tennessee Tech taking on Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio looked pretty decent for a while against Iowa. They got quarterback Brett Gabbert, Blaine Gabbert's brother, so Miami of Ohio there. All right, one of the games of the day, Texas A&M taking on Clemson. Clemson quarterback Trevor Lawrence did not look very good, but running back Travis Etienne did. Texas A&M quarterback Kellen Mond looked good in his first week. Jashawn Corbin, I think is his name, and he had over 100 yards receiving and 100 yards rushing and a receiving touchdown. Clemson only beat them by 2 last year, 28-26, but I'll go Clemson again in this one. Central Michigan taking on Wisconsin. Wisconsin, Jonathan Taylor is a Heisman candidate. I'll go Wisconsin. Nebraska, Colorado. This is interesting. Nebraska, yeah, they won. They beat South Alabama 35-21, but their offense only had 14 points. They had 2 defensive touchdowns and a punt return for a touchdown. Colorado, Steven Montez, their running back Alex Fontenot looked really good against Colorado State, putting up 52 points. Nebraska's got to bounce back. I don't know who to lean to. I'll go Colorado here with a little upset. Southern Illinois taking on UMass. UMass looked okay against Rutgers. They could move it a little bit. I think they win. Charlotte taking on Appalachian State. Charlotte had a pretty good win. They looked pretty good. Their first week, Appalachian State always looks good. I'll go App State there. 1AA Grambling against Louisiana Tech. Jamar Smith, quarterback for Louisiana Tech, threw for over 300 yards against Texas's defense last week, so I think they should win. Richmond taking on Boston College. Boston College had a really good first week win against Virginia Tech, so Boston College keeps it rolling. Illinois had a really good first week. They're playing UConn. UConn kind of struggled with 1AA Wagner. All they have is a running back, Kevin Mensah, and so I think Illinois wins there. Eastern Illinois taking on Indiana. Indiana, redshirt freshman quarterback Michael Penix had over 300 yards passing last week. I think they win. Southern Miss against Mississippi State. Southern Miss has a really good returner, Jalen Adams. I think he had a kick return and punt return for a touchdown last week. They can put a scare into Mississippi State, but I'll give Mississippi State the win. New Mexico next one. New Mexico State taking on Alabama. That shouldn't be close. I got Alabama. Murray State taking on Georgia. That shouldn't be close either. Georgia. UTSA against Baylor. UTSA their quarterback looked good in his first game, but I'll go Baylor in that one. Western Illinois taking on Colorado State. Colorado State did lose last week, but their offense moved it a lot, put up 31 points, and they should win. San Diego State against UCLA. San Diego State did win their first week, but they won 6-0. Jawan Washington, their running back, was held down. I think UCLA wins this. Northern Colorado against Washington State. Washington State should kill them. Louisiana Monroe against Florida State. Louisiana Monroe's a decent team, but Florida State's mad about last week, so they'll win. North Carolina A&T against Duke. Duke didn't do a whole lot against Alabama, but I think they bounce back here and win. Gardner-Webb against the ECU Pirates, East Carolina. East Carolina looked okay. They only put up 6 points, but they should win this one. Maine against Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern, I think, is mad. Yes, LSU killed them, but it depends on their quarterback too. Shea Werts, he was hurt. He may or may not be in, but Georgia Southern shouldn't have a problem either way. South Dakota taking on Oklahoma. Oklahoma, Jalen Hurts, Heisman candidate already. Oklahoma wins. UCF taking on Florida Atlantic. This should be interesting. Florida Atlantic can put up some points, but UCF, they got it rolling. So I think on offense, so they should win. Furman taking on Georgia State. Georgia State had a nice upset against Tennessee, and I think they keep going now with a win there. Jackson State, 1AA taking on South Alabama. South Alabama looked pretty good against Nebraska, so I think they win here. Wyoming had a nice upset against Missouri and Texas State. They got a new offense in. They didn't look very good against Texas A&M, so I'm going to go Wyoming in this one. Western Kentucky taking on Florida International. Florida International took it on the chin last week against Tulane. Western Kentucky, they had a lead on 1AA Central Arkansas under their new head coach and then lost. Their offense looks better, so this actually could be a really close game. I'll give FIU the edge here to bounce back. Tennessee State, 1AA taking on Middle Tennessee State. Middle Tennessee State looked pretty good against Michigan early on, and so I think MTSU goes here. North Texas and SMU, I'm kind of excited for this game. I think this is going to be shootout. You have Mason Fine, quarterback for North Texas. Shane Buechele, the Texas transfer to SMU. I think it's a lot of passing yards, probably 400 passing each. Shootout, I think, goes to North Texas. Eastern Kentucky against Louisville. Louisville looked really good in their first game against Notre Dame, even though they lost. They still look good, and I think Louisville gets their win here. BYU against Tennessee. BYU kind of took it on the chin against Utah, but it was sort of expected they might lose. Tennessee lost to Georgia State, and that was not expected. Although I'm going to give Tennessee the bounce back here. I think they win in Rocky Top. Coastal Carolina taking on Kansas. Kansas kind of struggled last week with the 1AA team, and Coastal Carolina could be a decent team from the Sun Belt this year. Kansas, they can't look past anybody, but I'll give Kansas the edge. McNeese taking on Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's got a really good quarterback and a good offense. They'll blow them out. All right, primetime game of the day. LSU taking on Texas. Two good quarterbacks. Joe Burrow for LSU is for Texas. I'll give LSU the slightest of edges. Tulane, a really good rushing team, taking on Auburn. Auburn's coming off that big win against Oregon. We'll see if Bo Nix is all that. I think Auburn really needs to pay attention to Tulane, but I'll give Auburn the win. UT Martin taking on Florida. Florida hasn't played in 2 weeks, even though Felipe Franks kind of sucks. They should win this one. Buffalo taking on Penn State. Buffalo look good in their game. Penn State put up 79 points. I don't think they'll do that this week, but they look good, and I think Penn State wins. Nevada taking on Oregon. They need to be careful with Nevada. Oregon needs to not let Auburn beat them twice, as in hopefully they don't have a hangover from Auburn coming back to win. Nevada came back to win against Purdue, but I think Oregon gets it corrected, and I think Oregon wins. Western Michigan taking on Michigan State. This is kind of an interesting, even though Western Michigan's in the MAC. John Weston had 5 touchdown passes his first week. Michigan State kind of still seems to be struggling on offense. They have a really great defense. But Western Michigan might be able to put up some points, so I'm going to say upset alert here. I'm not going to pull the trigger, though. I'll go Michigan State to win. Eastern Michigan taking on Kentucky. Kentucky moved it a little bit last week. Eastern Michigan had a decent game. Their quarterback, but I think Kentucky wins. Arkansas Ole Miss. This is a pillow fight. Arkansas barely beat 1AA Portland State 20-13. Ole Miss took it. They lost to a good team in Memphis from the American. They lost 15-10 though. I think Ole Miss bounces back, gets their offense going. Stony Brook 1AA taking on Utah State. Utah State's one of the best quarterbacks. They almost beat Wake Forest. They went back and forth. I think Utah State blows them out. Liberty taking on Louisiana Lafayette. Both lost the first week. Liberty did not look good on offense. Louisiana did look good against Mississippi State. Kept up with them all game. Only lost by 10, and that was with Mississippi State scoring a field goal late to go up by 10. I think this is going to be a shootout, though. I'll go give Louisiana this win, though. 1AA Prairie View taking on Houston. Houston, actually, their offense, Derek King finally got it going against Oklahoma, even though they lost, and I think Houston blows them out. Miami taking on North Carolina. Miami, they lost a couple of weeks ago to Florida. North Carolina, by a true freshman, Sam Howell, came back to win against South Carolina. They were down 20-9 in the fourth quarter. They won 24-20. And that's the kind of score I think this one up being, but I think Miami edges them out a little bit. So I got Miami. UTEP taking on Texas Tech. UTEP, yeah, they won their first game, but they struggled. Texas Tech looked really good under their new head coach, Matt Wells. I think Texas Tech takes this. Tulsa and San Jose State. San Jose State actually won their first game. They quarterback Josh Love looked pretty good. Tulsa, they kind of held their own against Michigan State for a little bit. This could be closer than I expect, but I'll give Tulsa the win here. Arkansas State and UNLV. Arkansas State lost in a shootout to SMU. UNLV blew out their competition last week. I think this will be a back and forth game. I think it could be a shootout. I'm going to give UNLV the edge only because Arkansas State has to go to UNLV here. Cal taking on Washington, who a pretty big early season Pac-12 battle. Cal had the upset on them last year, but Cal's got a really good defense and a good running game, but that's about it. Washington looks like a possible dark horse national title contender, maybe at least Pac-12 title contender for sure. So I'll give Washington the edge here. Stanford, USC, the 2 backup quarterbacks. Stanford quarterback KJ Costello, I believe, is out for this game. USC quarterback JT Daniels is out for the rest of the season. But I'll still give the edge to USC. Minnesota taking on Fresno State. Minnesota kind of struggled their first game, even though they won. Fresno State looked pretty good against USC. I'm actually going to go Fresno State here. Then you got Northern Arizona taking on Arizona. Arizona hasn't played in 2 weeks when they lost to Hawaii. But I give Arizona the edge. And the last game of the week, and I'm kind of excited for this. Oregon State going to Hawaii. I think it should be another shootout. Cole McDonald for Hawaii will start again. And I'll give Hawaii this game. Alright, those are my picks. Check out my previews and everything. Peace.